Welcome in, everybody. Again, the Family Leisure Studios way up northeast in Philadelphia. It's frigid here. It feels like 17 degrees outside. It was gorgeous sunshine yesterday. Clouds. Maybe that's a bad omen for Temple. The Temple Owls and the Tigers tonight were at the Liquora Center. The Owls have not lost a game. They are 6-0 at home. They've beaten teams at this ballpark by 12.5, but the U of M is favored by 9.5. The Tigers have only started off 3-0 in the American one other time. That was last year. They have to go all the way back to CUSA in 2012 and 13 for the Tigers to start off that well. They are the big favorites, though, in the game tonight. This Temple team, by the way, they've been good at home, but they haven't really beaten any team. When you look at their Power 4 record, when you look at their record against what is called a Big Five here, LaSalle, Villanova, there's 5 teams. St. Joseph's is in that with Temple. They haven't won a game. They are 0 for all of those. So I think the Tigers will take care of business tonight. Would you agree, Brian Dacus? It would take the Tigers to undo themselves. Lots of crazy turnovers, maybe miss all their threes, something of that nature for them to lose this game tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a game that the Tigers, should win. But, if you go back in recent history, and certainly in history, games on the road at Temple haven't been easy. I know in recent years, what was it? I think either last year or the year before, Temple had a big, Memphis dominated the first half. Temple had a big second half, kind of made it uncomfortable late. And then the year before, whenever Kendrick's year was when he had to shoot, was almost behind the basket on the baseline to shoot a buzzer beater to win on the road at Temple. So it hasn't been easy for the Tigers on the road in Philadelphia, but they should be able to win this game. I'm pretty confident about them tonight.
Well, they had their number. They've won 6 in a row. And so you do kind of think that. It's interesting. Jeb Hill, a Tiger fan who has this extensive audio and video library. He posted today, and I can't remember what year it was. I was at the game in McGonigal Hall. That's the old ballpark they used to have. And the Tigers with Cedric Henderson, Chris Garner, that team, the coaching staff, Larry Finch, John Prince, remember him. Tim Morgan, remember him, was great staff. Love those guys. Larry calls a timeout. The game is on ABC. Larry calls a timeout with about 35 seconds left to go, maybe 40 seconds left to go. It's a defensive timeout, and the analyst at the time, whose voice I did not recognize on ABC, goes, "That's unusual, but Larry is calling a defensive timeout to set it up." And he actually put Henderson on their best player to deny him the ball. It worked out well. They don't score. They take a bad shot at the buzzer. And then the Tigers play for the last shot, and Chris Garner makes a great up and under move in the lane at the buzzer to win the game. And then you saw Justin Wimmer and the guy that was a walk-on, Fox. I can't remember his first name. I'd love to see these guys now because they're all so young in this video. All jumping off the bench. They carry Garner off. It was a great, great moment. Larry had his hands in the air. Just fun to watch, and I salute Jeb Hill for coming up with all this great timely video all the times that he does. Speaking of older days and great players, tomorrow at Kingsbury, a gentleman who's now a pastor named Tim Bowers. Does that name mean anything to you, Brian Takis? Probably not. You're way too young.
Yeah, no, nothing comes to mind.
Well, this is way back in the 70s. And the coach was a guy named Kick Newt. I think his real name was Charles. They called him Kick Newt. My friend, who, by the way, signs a lot of the referees for high schools in the area, was the middle school coach. His name is Steve Wynett. And they had this great player named Tim Bowers. And Bowers beat Mike Butler's school record of 1,300-plus points. He ended up with more, only behind the great Bob Nelson, who ended up with 1,600 points at Kingsbury. But they are going to retire Tim Bauer's jersey tomorrow evening at Kingsbury. Is going to be a great event. A lot of people are going to be there. I congratulate Tim Bowers a whole lot. I'm sorry I'm going to have to miss the ceremony, but this is a great story. So Tim went from Kingsbury and played for Verdi Sales at then Shelby State, now to Southwest Tennessee. Then he went to Southeast Louisiana, was a really good player there. And then when his college career was over, came back home and he worked for FedEx. I believe he was in baggage handling for a little while, worked his way up, and he became a guy in security, but even better. And I think he did this for 30 years. He was the main guy guarding Fred Smith.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, as a pastor, which he, I believe, kind of does now full time, Pastor Bowers married all 5 of Fred Smith's daughters. How's that for a good story?
Wow, that's a really good story.
Yeah, I love it. And I really congratulate him. You know, this has been an interesting last few weeks because I want to say maybe it was 2 weeks ago, the jersey of Jeremy Hunt was retired at his high school.
How about that?
Jeremy, I believe now is the middle school coach at Lausanne. Always loved seeing his mother. She was in the picture when they did the retirement of his jersey at the high school. So congratulations belatedly to him. The numbers are in, Brian Dacus, on what we love to look at and talk about, that being golf. The TGL, the Tomorrow Golf League, could be known as the Tiger Golf League. They ended up with a 9% increase on week 1, and it would have been a lot more had it been just a bit competitive. Tiger's team was never in it. But they had 1 million viewers on average, 1.1, almost 1.2 million at peak. So that goes up. Now, next week, Rory, what's going to happen, Brian Dacus? I predict down 10%.
Yeah, I'm curious. We talked about it, yesterday a little bit, but I figured week 1 there was going to be a big crowd. Week 2, Tigers there'd be a big crowd. Week 3, I'm curious to see what the numbers are after you have the initial, okay, let's just check this out, and then the Tiger factor. What does it bring in? But I've heard, it sounds like a lot of people are pretty split. There are people that don't want anything to do with it, hate it, can't stand it, not golf. There are other people that like it, enjoy watching it, so maybe it's something that continues to get decent ratings.
There's got to be some tweaks to make it a little bit more compelling. Mm-hmm. You can't, I mean, considering they've kept most of the audience with very uncompetitive matches. Yeah. I am curious, when it's a really good match, how will it be retained? Will they build on, let's just say the target is $1 million, because it was short of that, right? In the first one, Tiger brings in the extra 10%. It's going to go back to the original or maybe even lower for Rory. We'll see what happens from here. I do tend to agree with you. Once a week in just that one match, I don't know. I just don't know how you can build upon that. We got a busy show. Pete Pranica is going to join us. Ron Higgins will talk. There's a great story on CBS today talking about money and the shift of money, which may give the Big Ten a bigger advantage over the SEC. We'll get into that with Ron Higgins, and then we'll end our week with our Hall of Famer, Jarvo, and he will join us to talk. Did you know that Memphis has the #1 portal class, not in the conference, in America, in football?
Yeah.
We'll get into that with Jarvo. That will come last thing. All right, before we get Pete Pranica on to talk about the Grizz win, and it was I said last night was an important one to sort of reestablish yourself as a viable competitor in the incredibly tough West. They came through with a 129-115 win. We'll get with that with Pete in a minute. But first, because I know Brian loves the Dallas Cowboys, there was an interesting betting site odds that were put out on who will be the next Dallas Cowboys coach. The leader by far at -145 is Deion Sanders. Longtime fan Brian Dacus. Does that excite you?
I mean, Deion's Deion. He's, he's a great character. I mean, I love Deion. But man, I think him and Jerry Jones, everything's nice now. I don't think it'd be too long before they start butting heads.
Oh, it'll be a great soap opera. I hope Dion gets the job. I don't know that he can really do the job, to be honest with you. That would really be a challenge to his coaching chops. But I just want it to happen just to see the total unravel, because I suspect that's the inevitability. Then, in second place at plus 325. So it's a big difference between Dion and the next guy. That is their current OC, Kellen Moore. We know all about Kellen Moore. Is that a guy you'd like to see in?
Don't want anything to do with him, Dave.
Wow, because of what happened with McCarthy?
That's right. Well, partially McCarthy. I wasn't a huge Kellen Moore fan when he was OC. I mean, I don't want anything to do with him.
All right. You can't have this next guy, but he's the third in line.
That's who I want,
plus
Dave.
350. What?
That's who I want, this next guy you're about to say.
How do you know who it is?
Because you said I don't want him, so I know that you want him, so I know it's Ben Johnson.
You're spot on with that. Then it would be, a Ben Johnson kind of a guy. Cliff Kingsbury, who's done a heck of a job with the Commanders, failed in his first attempt at a head coaching job. I know he's going to get another shot. What about Cliff Kingsbury?
Yeah,
interested or not?
I don't know. It was Mike Keith that said it last week. Some people are just good coordinators. Some are good head coaches. I don't know. Cliff Kingsbury might be in that fold.
All right. Last two are both long shots. At plus 700, John Gruden. I'd take John Gruden. I really would.
Maybe. I would think on that one. Let me sleep on it.
All right, and then the last one, the longest of long shots, because he just hired two more people at North Carolina, Bill Belichick. However, another story has come out today that he hasn't signed his deal officially with North Carolina. Would you take Bill Belichick?
Yeah, it's a strange story. I mean, it's Bill Belichick. Sure, I'd take him.
Yeah, why not? I would too. If he wanted to be a Bears head coach, come on, baby. You'll end up passing Shula for number one in the NFL with wins all time. That stuff is good. All right, we've moved the Family Leisure Studios to ice cold Philadelphia, but it's nice and warm at I-40 and Whidden Road, where that floor model sale continues. You can get up to 50% off on any floor model in the place, because the 2024's got to go. They're moving in the 25s. How about $3,000 off a hot tub? If you like that kind of thing after a workout and you're getting older like me and you want to relax those muscles and feel renewed, $3,000 off on those. You can get up to 60% off on foosball, on ping pong. Don't forget to check out the state-of-the-art pool tables. It's happening. It's the floor model sale at I-40 and Whidden Road. That is Family Leisure. Love talking to Pete Pranica. Every Thursday we do that. He comes our way from, are you on the Riverwalk? I love the Riverwalk. We'll be there in a few weeks. Pete Pranica, nice second half last night, a 129-115 win over the San Antonio Spurs and the Phenom Wembanyama. And I thought it was a game that really, a statement needed to be made by the Grizz, who were out-physicaled by Houston, and I thought they made it last night. Your thoughts? Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I thought they did a much better job physicality-wise, particularly in that second half. I mean, the first half, San Antonio got a lot of wide-open looks. And, giving up wide open threes has been an issue for the Grizzlies, but much better in the second half. I think also the fact that Zach Edey, when in the first half he's around the basket, that means Wemby's around the basket, and Wemby blocks 8 shots in the first half. Edey doesn't play very much in the second half. Wembanyama doesn't have a block in the second half. So, the way that the matchups turned, I think, was very important. I thought Taylor Jenkins did a good job of managing his rotations, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. I think it was the 8th time this year he's had a fourth quarter of double-figure scoring, and we've seen it on this road trip. Ja had a very mediocre first 3 quarters in Minnesota, and then scored or assisted on 6 of the final 8, and hit the game winner against Minnesota. And then last night it was Jaren coming up really, really big in the fourth quarter, and it was a much-needed win. I think it's an important win. It's a divisional win. It's a win against a 500 team that, by and large, with the exception of Jeremy Sohan, they were totally healthy. And so very good win for the Grizzlies. Great response after trailing by a dozen. Anytime you get a double-digit comeback on the road, I don't care who the opponent is, it's a good win for you.
Good, excellent game for Ja. Overall total floor game. 12 assists, only 2 turnovers. I thought tried to get everybody involved. Tied for the team lead with 21. It's the lack of mistakes, and obviously, even though the whistle blew, that unbelievable dunk over Wembanyama. That's the kind of thing that makes fans excited.
Without a doubt. I mean, I know that it didn't count, and some people are nitpicking that. Well, he threw it in; he really didn't dunk it over Wembanyama. I don't care. He jumped over Wembanyama and finished the play. I mean, that's a great achievement in itself. You know, we had heard the report going into the Houston game that Ja was under the weather, and illness. Would he be able to play? And I'm wondering if that illness might not have even started in Minnesota, where he did not play particularly well until the big moment, and then certainly was not himself against Houston. But he was aggressive, wasn't settling for threes, got everybody involved. I think he had 5 assists in the first quarter. So I think it was overall one of the better games that Ja's played all season long, and the Grizzlies needed that tone setter, and they needed him, and he came up big.
I'm conflicted about Zach Edey a bit. I love that he had a postering. I'm sitting in the Philadelphia hotel, and I can't get FanDuel, right? So I'm watching ESPN. It's the Knicks and Philly in a heck of a game that went to overtime, and the Knicks were winners. But they actually had a break in and showed Zach Edey in the first quarter posterizing Wembanyama. Great dunk. But if you look, he didn't play in the fourth quarter. He didn't play that much in the second half. That was the great second half. Tell me where you think Edey is right now in his development.
I think he's done a good job, to this point in the NBA. I mean, he's trying to learn the level of physicality, and the Grizzlies are asking him to do things that he didn't do at Purdue. Purdue, run to the box, raise your hand. Okay, we'll throw it to you. It's a totally different game now. So I think part of it, as I referenced, I think the fact he didn't play in the fourth quarter, it took Wembanyama away from the basket, and the Grizzlies were able to do. The Grizzlies scored 62 in the paint, and Wembanyama, is their center fielder defensively. I think that there are some matchups that are not favorable for him. It's just like there are some matchups that are not favorable for Jay Huff. So there are some nights Jay Huff's not going to play at all. And so, there are certain situations where Zach is going to be very effective. And there are going to be certain situations where maybe he will be a little less than. But I think as his professional career develops, I think he'll be able to develop that he's going to be able to do a few more things. And I think he's going to be fine. I think he'll be fine as an NBA center. But, the battle with Wembanyama, again, sometimes not having Zach in there creates a little bit more space in the paint. And the Grizzlies took advantage of that, particularly in the second half.
You've watched a lot of NBA in your days. We all knew about the hype that Wembanyama brought in and how he's pretty much lived up to that hype. As you view, and you've seen greats come and then retire, where do you think the upside is on Wembanyama? How great is this guy going to be?
Well, I mean, it's a little early to put him in the Hall of Fame, but what the numbers that he's putting up are just insane. I referenced it last night. He came in and maybe over 4 blocks on average after last night's performance. No one has averaged 4 block shots per game since Dikembe Mutombo in 1995-96. To give you some historical context about what he's doing at his young age, amazing. Handles are really good. The one thing that I had an issue with in doing the research for the game last year, he took about 33% of his shots from 3. This year he's taking almost 50% of his shots from 3. And I'm like, dude, you're 7'3", 7'4". Go to the rim. But he has the ability to make. Now, we saw him make several threes, and then we saw him brick some that didn't even hit the rim. So it's kind of feast or famine with him. Again, he's going to grow into the NBA game, but I mean, where he is, his potential, his upside still is quite significant, and I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be a 10, 12-time All-Star if injury doesn't bedevil him. So I think an outstanding player. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's great for the league. I mean, the social media posts where he was in New York and decided to play chess with some people in the park. I mean, he's definitely soon. He is one of the faces of the NBA. Let's be honest. He's one of the young faces of the NBA, and I think it's great for the league.
Yeah, he seems to be really special both on and off the floor. Speaking about a guy who could be special, G.G. Jackson made his season debut after the injury to his foot in the summer. Appears to have gained 20 pounds of muscle. Was a little rusty first half, pretty good in the second half. You have any ideas as to when G.G. might join and how he will be used by Taylor Jenkins in the rotation?
Well, they've got another game tonight against Rip City Remix in South Haven, so everybody get on down to South Haven, go see Gigi in person. I'm pretty sure what they're doing is they're going to monitor, okay, he played a game last night, how did he respond? How is he going to respond on back-to-back games, assuming that he plays tonight? They're going to monitor, what his health is like, what his conditioning is like. I would guess that he's going to be involved in this homestand. I don't know necessarily that he would play on MLK Day. We'll see how that plays out. But the Grizzlies do have a stretch at home next week. So without any insider knowledge, I'm going to guess that he's going to be in the lineup during this upcoming homestand. And I'm sure Taylor Jenkins will dip his toe in the water and see what Gigi can give the Grizzlies in short minutes and try to figure out how he integrates with the rest of this team, because Jalen Wells has been very, very good, particularly defensively, and Gigi Jackson last year was fantastic offensively. So I'm sure there'll be some experimentation, probably some light minutes in the rotation just to get him acclimated, because he hasn't played with these guys. He missed training camp. He's missed everything with this particular group in terms of being with them on the floor. Obviously he's done some play groups, but hasn't played truly competitive basketball with this particular roster.
It was interesting last night. The hustle went to overtime, and they do a target score. First 1 to 7 wins the overtime. Do you think we'll see that in the NBA? Obviously, it's great for getting the game to a conclusion.
Yeah, I kind of like it. They do the target score in summer league as well, and it just means that you're not ending up with a potentially 2 or 3 overtime game where you're taxing players and overstressing their bodies. I kind of like it. Otherwise the game just drags and drags and drags, or it has the potential to drag, I should say. And I think a target score makes it a nice, neat, easy way of wrapping up a game in overtime.
I see it perfect for the regular season. I truly do. I don't like it in playoffs. Would love it in the regular season. CBS Sports put out an NBA power ranking. You're going to like it. Cleveland number 1, and that seems pretty obvious. OKC leading the West, number 2. Houston over Boston for 3, and then the Celtics are 4. They got the Grizz number 5. I'm just looking at it, and with the Grizz 10, 11 games over 500 now, they're on pace for low 50s, mid 50s after the 82-game regular season. What do you think it takes to get in the top 6 in order to miss the play-in and be in the playoff?
Well, it's definitely going to take 50-plus. I'm thinking probably in the order of 52, 53 wins, more than likely, although, the West does have a tendency to beat everybody up, and the Grizzlies did make hay early in the season. Their early season schedule turned out to be relatively light. Philadelphia is not very good. Grizzlies beat them twice. They beat Washington twice. They beat Portland twice. So they took advantage of the schedule. Now, the schedule is going to get very difficult for the Grizzlies. In fact, right now, I think as of yesterday, only Phoenix and the Knicks have a harder schedule the rest of the way. Win percentage for the upcoming Grizzlies opponents is .520. So it's going to be a very difficult road for the Grizzlies, but hopefully they stay healthy. When you look at it, well, this team is 11 games above 500, and I think it's 18 games they've had the big three. You're halfway into the season, and you've only had those guys for, less than half of the games you've played. So if they can stay healthy, and we'll see what Gigi Jackson, what Vince Williams can bring to the table. The Grizzlies front office, I can tell you, they are just dying to see what this roster would look like if everybody were healthy at the same time.
I'm into that. All right, last thing, Monday. I know you got one more game in San Antonio, but Monday, Martin Luther King Day, you will be MC extraordinaire for the events before with all the wonderful people coming in. Your last chance to give a plug on that one.
Yeah, I mean, game time 1:30, Minnesota, noon, the Earl Lloyd Sports Legacy Symposium inside the Built Ford Tough Practice facility. Cheryl Miller, Amari Stoudemire, Tommy Smith. I am psyched to hear from Tommy Smith because we haven't had many track and field athletes, and obviously the Black Power salute in 1968 in Mexico City. In 1968 in our country was such an incredibly tumultuous year, and so much controversy, so much emotion, so much focus on civil and human rights. So really intrigued to hear from him. And then also talk to, Amari Stoudemire has done a lot of charitable work in terms of getting clean drinking water to underserved and underdeveloped countries. And Cheryl Miller, we talk about how the WNBA has exploded now and the tremendous popularity in women's sports. And really Cheryl Miller was at the forefront of that as a player at USC and then as a commentator, and was one of the big advocates that, hey, we need a WNBA. And it's come alive, and so it's always a great conversation. It's great. I throw up the questions and let these people talk, and always there are great answers. It's a great conversation. If you have a ticket to the game, you can get into the Earl Lloyd Sports Legacy Symposium. Be there. I've said it over and over again. It is a red letter day on the Memphis calendar. I think it is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, civic celebration that Memphis has, and I'm tremendously proud to be a little part of it.
I can't wait to hear the conversation from Tommy Smith in particular. That was a unbelievable moment of awareness for America that the athletes felt it the way they did at the Olympic Games. And I'm trying to remember who the other track athlete that raised the black glove,
John Carlos,
on that podium that day. John Carlos. I kept coming up with John Franco, and I knew that he was a pitcher in the major leagues. Oh yeah. And then of course the professor from Stanford that was very much involved in that. I'm sure he'll tell stories about all of that. Harry Edwards, I believe is his name.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for all of that. Thank you so much. We always enjoy chatting with you. Good luck on this trip, and go have a margarita.
Sounds good, Wolo. Take care.
Okay. That's our guy, the voice on TV of the Grizzlies. That is Pete Pranica. We take a break. When we come back, we'll travel to Baton Rouge, our SEC historian, and there's a great story in CBS about the money shifting from south to north. We'll get into that a little bit. We'll talk college football playoff, SEC hoops. Man, is that a good league. All that comes your way next with the one and only Ron Higgins.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. I'm Gary York. I'm the service director of Lexus in Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food? We have it covered at Home Dinners. It's quick, it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. Many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Home Dinners, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Home Dinners offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate branches. You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
Classic style meets modern design in your new Volkswagen from Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike. Take your pick from 2025 Jetta Sport or 2024 Volkswagen Taos SE. Get yours for $249 a month. Gossett Volkswagen on the Pike says come get 2024 Tiguan S or 2025 Jetta SE, now $279 a month. Plus all 2024 Atlas SEL Peak Editions, $5,000 off MSRP. So get to Gossett Volkswagen today, 1875 Covington Pike, online, GossettVWMemphis.com. And remember, no reasonable offer will be refused. Gossett's where we're charging forward and charging less every day. If you want it, we got it at Gossett Volkswagen. 7,500 miles, Jetta Sport, SMO 45898, MSRP 25416, Taos SE, RMO 56983, MSRP 31939, Tiguan S, RM 144331, MSRP 31363, Jetta SE, SMO 10792, MSRP 28321, Atlas 3500 bonus customer cash, 1500 Gossett discount, excludes tax on the license, includes all rebates and incentives, fee of $695 with approved credit, well qualified buyer, offer valid through end of the month.
Every Monday night at 6, hear the latest news on your Ole Miss Rebels with the NC Border with 24/7 Sports. Your Ole Miss defensive captain Mike Fitzsimmons, Gordon Moore covering SEC sports ball, and former Ole Miss baseball announcer Gary Garvey from kickoff to first throw to extra innings. Your Ole Miss sports on the Rebel Yellow Hotline Show right here Monday night at 6 on Sports 56.5, 60 AM and 98.5 FM, your Mid-South sports station.
Welcome back here in Philly. We talk SEC, we talk college football championship, we talk every week with our historian, that is Ron Higgins down in Baton Rouge. All right, it's set. Notre Dame, Ohio State, it's the Buckeyes favored by 8 points. Pretty good semifinal games. Would you agree with that? Do you like the way this setup has taken place? Good morning.
Yeah, how you doing? I mean, I thought both games last week would be tight, and they were tight. It's kind of what you want to see when it gets toward the end, when you get the kind of filters out, and the two best teams won those games. I thought they both deserved to win those games. But somehow I just think it's Ohio State's year at this point. I just think they're kind of on a mission at this point. I just like the way they play. I like to play on both sides of the ball. I think they're pretty steady. I don't know if they'll beat the spread because, like I said, these games are tight, but I do like Ohio State. If they're the best team money can buy.
That we're getting into that in just a minute. I'm glad you brought that up. But I tend to think that you are correct. Have you ever seen a coach, Ryan Day, in this short period of time? I've seen it over a year, but he went from he can't beat Michigan, we got to fire him, to he's the greatest guy in the world. Top Blake Meyer, the SEC writer, is talking about how he ought to go to the SEC, stick it up the you-know-what of the fans of Ohio State. It's a pretty interesting, quick turnaround for Ryan Day, don't you think?
Oh, it's amazing. It really is. I mean, you know, as of December 1st, they're ready to fire the guy. He lost to Michigan. He's awful. You got him in the playoffs. He's still awful. And then they just go roll everybody they're playing. You know, I mean, I can see why they would be angry because they have paid the most money of anybody else for players, probably, the biggest payroll. So you feel like if you're buying all this talent, why aren't you winning? You should be winning it all. Well, here they are. They got a chance to win it all. So apparently, you know, they're like, okay, we bought you the players, now go win it. Well, now he's in position to win it. And I hope he does. I really do. Nothing against Marcus Freeman. I like to see Ryan Day win. I think he's got a lot of flack, you know, for because he couldn't beat Michigan. Well, I mean, it happens. Sometimes you get on a roll against certain teams, you don't play well against them, and they keep winning. But I like Ryan Day and hope he wins this game.
Speaking of coaches, there's a little story. I can't remember where I read it, but that Bill Belichick's North Carolina contract has not been totally signed. Although he hired 2 new coaches yesterday, he's listed as a 1,000 plus 1,000 long shot to be the Cowboys head coach. Do you think Bill Belichick will coach at North Carolina? And if so, will he succeed?
I don't know what the holdup is. Maybe that he wants his wife to be the head of the cheerleading corps. I don't know. I mean,
well, she's just a little too old, but not by much.
But she could be the coordinator.
Yeah, she could.
Yeah, I mean, there's pro jobs open. There's 4 pro jobs open. And maybe he didn't sign his contract because let's see what happens here. Maybe he was too quick to pull the trigger to say, I'm going to go coach college football. I still can't believe why he's coaching football. I still don't understand it. I just don't. I don't get it. Why he's trying to coach college football, because he's so out of his element of what you have to do to be a college football coach. It's not as easy as the pros where you just go, you coach football. And
right.
College, you have to
the other
all
aspect of this
stuff.
is he's not shy. Very easily can break Don Shulett's record for NFL victories. He'd be the greatest coach in the history of the National Football League when it comes to wins, and he's not even trying to get that, and that's a doable thing. So I find it all very intriguing. I've got the sense he is going to be at North Carolina, but I'm really sort of surprised. All right, let's shift. You mentioned money, and I believe the budget was around $20 million for Ohio State this year in NIL money. There's a great story. I can't remember the author, but it's on CBSSports.com. And it talks a little bit how the SEC had become the number one college football league because of population growth of the South. All these northern and Midwest cities where Big Ten schools are, the population base was moving to the South. And, some of that is, if we're really being honest about it, is the advent of air conditioning kept people going, what, we don't want cold winters and we can relax and enjoy the summers in the cool. And so the population started to shift to the South. And let's face it, with that growth came more opportunities for people. At the time, just real estate was cheaper. It all made a lot of sense. But a lot of that is shifting now, and it's all about money. The author points out that the Big Ten TV deals, they're worth $100 million per school through 2030. The SEC schools make a paltry $75 million. That's still 90% more than the best group of 5, which is the American, at about $7.5 million. So that's incredible in its own right. Then it points out that if you look at the Forbes list, the richest people have ties to the Big Ten. It's weird. This guy Ellison that owns Oracle is worth $200 billion. He is giving big money to Michigan's NIL fund, even though he's a graduate of the U of Illinois, so he may be giving them some.
Yeah.
Phil Knight at Oregon. They did this whole ranking, and they're saying there is a shift because of the money list on Forbes and the television money back toward the Big Ten over the SEC. And if you look at what the bowl and the playoff record was postseason, the Big Ten had the better of the SEC. Your thoughts on all of that, and which league do you think is at this moment a better league?
Well, I mean, I think probably from top to bottom, the SEC's better. Maybe the Big Ten's better at the top. As far as the money aspect, there are certain schools in the SEC that have, a lot of donors, a lot of money, and they understand how much it takes now to go buy players. I would just say this: I think a lot of guys, if all things equal, the money's fairly close. A lot of them might lean toward the SEC in some cases because the SEC still the NFL than the Big Ten does, and that's what it's been for a while. Some of them look at their future like that and say, that's what I want to do. I'm not disparaging Big Ten schools; they got a ton of great schools in the Big Ten. I mean, this year, I just look at leagues from top to bottom, and I thought the SEC was insane. They haven't beat up on each other all year. I don't think that was much the case in the Big Ten. I don't think from top to bottom it's as good as the SEC, but I agree at the top, they have some really good teams at the top. They do.
There's no doubt the SEC is the best basketball league, and maybe the best I've seen in quite a while. Auburn and Ole Miss, though, the last of the undefeateds. It's crazy. Tennessee gets creamed at Florida. Most lopsided game. I couldn't believe it. And then Missouri goes to the same place. Helps Memphis, by the way. Makes it a quad one win now when they beat Missouri. They go and beat Florida at Florida. Explain all this stuff to me.
I can't explain. It's inexplicable, man. I watched a Tennessee-Florida game, and my mouth was like, good God, this is destroying this team. They came out on fire and never really let up. You almost start to think it's a lot like football. There's a lot of good teams that are going to beat each other every night. I'm starting to think that the regular season winner of the SEC is going to have 4 or 5 losses, which is probably unprecedented.
I said 4. And I think that's really going to happen.
Yeah, I really do too. Just every other night somebody's going to beat somebody. I think talking like they're going to get like 10 or 11, 12 teams in the NCAA tournament would be a record for a league. But it's a long wait until then. I think the most the SEC's ever had was probably 8, maybe. I'm off the top of my head. I think they'll break that record. They're definitely going to
get 8 or 9 in this time.
Yeah. I mean, it's just because I want. Yeah, go ahead.
Heck of a game. I guess is it Saturday where Ole Miss is at State? That I think State will hand Ole Miss their first loss. I think because I've seen them both. I think State is a little bit better. Last thing. John Calipari, I don't believe has ever been 0-4 in conference. He was 0-3, and that matched the worst performance by him since he was a first-year coach at UMass. To me, that's the biggest surprise. Arkansas was ranked in the top 25. They are 0-4 in the SEC. Did you see this coming with Cal's team?
No, I didn't see it coming. I can't believe that LSU beat them because they're not very good. I really thought Arkansas would win the game going in. LSU's not very good at all. It's just like those two teams were a lot alike. They have these long spells where they just don't do anything on the court. I mean that they don't score, they don't hit shots. And LSU had won that game because they had a few less of those, blank spaces. I'm surprised. I really am. When I watch Cal on the sideline, it's an older Cal, and I wonder if it's the Cal with the same passion and energy that he once had. And I just kind of wonder. If he took the job because he needed to get out of Kentucky, and Arkansas wanted him, and why not go to Arkansas? You're in the SEC. Sometimes coaches take jobs, and sometimes I think maybe they should sit out for a year and catch their breath and see if they really want to coach again. I remember. I think if I'm not being incorrect, I remember Jimmy Sexton telling Houston Nutt, man, why don't you just, after Arkansas, why don't you just, take a year off and see where this goes? But Houston wanted to go coach Ole Miss right away. Sometimes I think coaches need to kind of take a year off and realize there's going to be jobs there always, and just kind of assess what happens. And maybe I just think Cal's blood to coach, and he couldn't stand sitting out a year not coaching. And plus when you've done this a long time when you're older.
I don't think he's lost his passion for it. I'd be surprised. That is not the Cal I know. I just think there's no chemistry on this team. He's got some pieces, but for whatever reason, they don't play well together. I don't, But you're right about this. Cal could have Had he wanted to take a year off, he probably still would have been sought after, and he could have gone and become the number one analyst on ESPN or right behind Billis, one of the two, because you know how good he is on the air. And I suspect in the long run, that's what he'll end up being.
Yeah, I mean, I just I like Cal. I've never not disliked Cal. I think a lot of people dislike him for a lot of different reasons, and some valid, a lot of them not valid. Maybe he'll get this thing straightened out for the end of the year. I don't know. You're like me. There was not much chemistry there, and that's always been Cal's deal. I mean, he was the first, long before NIL. He was the first guy to take a lot of guys for 1 year, and they had to leave with one and done. So he knew how to get team chemistry in a short period of time. And so I always tell people he was the originator of putting teams together in 1 year, which now everybody has to do because that's the way NIL works. But I like to see them kind of get it together. I mean, they're one of the few teams in this league. I mean, besides LSU, look at, they got no shot. I mean, LSU probably has no shot of getting in the NCAA tournament. They just don't have enough talent.
He still has a
but
shot
man,
for that. There's no doubt about that. Ron, we've gone long. Thank you, my friend. As always, I appreciate your insight. We'll talk next Thursday.
Take care, Wolo. We'll see you.
That's our guy. That is Ron Higgins. Down in Baton Rouge, we head downtown. And Jarvis Greer, the Hall of Famer, comes your way. Do you know the Tigers have the number one transfer portal class, not just in the American, in the country? We'll explain in just a minute.
Sports Talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56 and 95 FM.
High-energy, full-body workout that utilizes the same equipment and technology employed by Floyd Mayweather to achieve his impressive 50-0 record. The workout features 4 types of heavy bags, treadmills, rows, battle ropes, weights, and much more. Visit Mayweather Boxing and Fitness, located at 2257 North Germantown Parkway in Cordova. Train like a champ. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness.
What happens when former real estate agents want to sell their homes? This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Mark Spence Realtors. I am so proud and feel so honored when former real estate agents contact me when they want to sell their homes or someone has called them asking whom they should use. They know that I've been in the business for quite a while, have a great deal of experience, and know that I'm good at marketing and I'm part of a nationwide relocation network. Over the years, I've developed a highly successful strategic marketing program that can make the difference in what you make and when. Thinking of selling? Talk to 2 to 3 real estate brokers, but make sure I'm one of them. Remember what people often say, that when you want the job done, call Shell Done. So if you or somebody you know is thinking of selling, remember what other former real estate agents do. They call me at 483-0546 or email me at memphisrelocate.com. Shell Dunn Rosengarten at memphisrelocate.com or 483-0546.
From Philly to downtown Memphis, let's hook up with our Hall of Famer. That is Jarvis Greer. This is amazing, Jarvo. The Tigers have the number one portal class, not just in the American. They have the number one portal class in all of college football. Can that really be true? Is that what Rivals and 24/7 are saying? Good morning.
Good morning, Dave, and welcome to another Hall of Famer. I see you will be inducted into the U of M Hall of Fame yourself.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I am. February 22nd. I'm really excited about that.
I am excited for you, Dave. That is awesome, and you definitely deserve it. All hail Dave Voloshin. I bow in your direction.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, let's see. So number one in Rivals, isn't that something, in 22/47? I think it largely has to do with the number of players signed in the class. Of course, the leader would be A.J. Hill, the quarterback who just played in the Navy All-American game. That dude's got a cannon. Oh, my goodness. I don't know if you got a chance to see any of him. He didn't get in the game until late. But he effortlessly threw a frozen rope 50 yards to a receiver that made the toe tap catch on the sideline.
Yes.
And he's a big dude that's got a cannon for an arm, and he is a legitimate 4-star recruit. I think, Coach Prime wanted him at Colorado, and also Florida was after him, but he signed with the University of Memphis and kept his commitment. But then they've got a lot of other guys that they signed that are in the 3-star range, and a bunch of them because, Memphis loses a lot off of this team, and they needed to recruit a lot. They have done so, and they've gotten a lot of guys from other programs that are, look like they're really good. So kudos to Ryan Silverfield and the staff over there. They're killing it. And for the last couple of years in the portal here, especially thanks to Fred over at FedEx. I call it FredEx. So, hey, they're they're getting the money and they're getting the players. So that's how you do that.
Back to Antoine Hill. I didn't even know his nickname was AJ, so that is nice to know. I saw some of the highlights. I've heard other people say that on paper, this could be the number one prospect that Memphis has ever signed. You think about Harry Shue, you think about D'Angelo Williams. Don't forget Bob Rush that was in there. I mean, you're talking about a lot of great athletes that have played at the U of M. But on paper, they say this guy's the real deal. That quarterback room is going to be interesting because Maiden was a 3-star guy that
Harrington Maiden,
everybody raves about from practices. He's still in the quarterback room. You got this guy that came over from Nevada. He is going to push Antoine Hill. I don't know that it's a given that Hill's going to be your starter. Do you?
I don't know that it's a given, but I do know it will be a definite battle. It'll definitely be competition. The kid from Nevada he was at Colorado originally, I think. He can run and throw, and I think they're going more to that. They're looking to kids that are going to be really, really mobile out there that can take off and run on you. And not that Seth Hennigan, couldn't run. He could. But these guys can run, if you know what I mean. They're not afraid to take off and go, and they can pick up a lot of yards downfield, not just, get out of trouble, get out of bounds.
Well, he lost so many linebackers, Ryan Silverfield did. He lost defensive backs, but it looks like he's stocking up on these guys from good places.
Yeah. I got one kid to come home who had gone to a Big Ten school, and he's coming back in the defensive backfield. They have some players now coming in. So it's almost like a Penny situation. It's going to be a new team. But these guys that were here, most of them were here for a good while other than Mario Anderson, who, came in last year and had a tremendous year and got the most valuable player in the Hula Bowl. How about that, huh? Scored the only touchdown in the game. And so what was his combined total yardage at Memphis? I know he
was very close to Blake Watson, who's playing in the NFL.
Right.
I remember Ryan saying, I don't know how we're going to be able to replace all that rushing 1,000 yards and all the passing 300 yards or whatever the total was. And Mario Anderson did just that.
Yeah, he did. And he was an excellent runner. At first I thought, he would be kind of a plugger type, just he can get you the hard yards, but he didn't have the breakaway. And he showed as the season went on, he's got breakaway capability. Plus, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, and that's what the pros really like because that's where the game has gone, throwing, both in college and pro. So he can catch out of the backfield. He'll have every opportunity, I think, to do that. I think his speed, his 40 time is good. It may not be great, but it's good. Plus, he's a second effort runner. He's not a go down on first contact kind of runner. And but just think, looking at the backfield room next year, you got Greg DeRosier coming back if he can survive the second portal and stay in Memphis. And that dude is a dude, man. I'm telling you, he's got speed to burn, and he can also catch the ball out of the backfield. We saw what he could do when he came back after that broken collarbone that he suffered against Florida State.
And you got the original starter from this year, Sutton Smith, and you got this kid Botiford who came on. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we run out of time, you watched G.G. Jackson last night on the telecast with our own Eli Savoy. Tell me a little bit about how he was. He's gained 20 pounds of muscle?
You can tell he's definitely gained weight in his upper body. He said, hey, just because my wheel is bad doesn't mean I can't work out the rest of me. He looks a lot stronger. He does look bigger. He was rusty. That's the best word I can describe. He hadn't played since August, since he had his, the fifth metatarsal break in his foot, broken foot, basically. So he's rusty. It's going to take him a bit to get himself back in shape. But as that game went along, it got chippy. And Romeo Weems, who used to play with the Hustle, played with the Rapid City Remix, and they got into it. And that's when you saw the old G.G. Jackson come out. He hit a couple of threes. He had some nice rebound putbacks. He had an assist. And he also had a tech where he and Reams are going at it pretty good. But he looks like, hey, look, this guy, you give him a couple of games. They play again tonight down in South Haven on a back-to-back. Might be a good chance to go down there and see it if you're not going to watch the Tiger game or whatever. But he's got the ability to play. And he just needs to get that rust off. And I think you will see him in the uniform with the big club on MLK Day, 1:30 against the Timberwolves.
Probably about a minute. Tell me what you think happens tonight at the Liqueur Center. The Tigers 9.5-point favorites over Temple.
Yeah, that's a big favorite. I think this is their last Quad 2 opportunity in the American to, pick up a win against the Quad 2. They are not bad at home. They played well against some people, but it all depends. If you can keep Cisse out of foul trouble and you can keep the turnovers down, I think that Memphis would be able to walk out of here with a win. I think
turnovers
that they
are critical, no question about it.
That is definitely true about that.
Owls haven't lost at home yet this year, but I think they will tonight. I truly do. As always, my friend, thank you much.
Dave. You'll bring it to him as a Hall of Famer. You'll have the Hall of Fame call, your first call as a Hall of Famer. I'm ready to listen to you.
I'm not in there till the 22nd of February.
Yeah, okay. You're a Hall of Fame elect. There you go.
Elect. Very good. Very good, Jarvo. Yeah. We'll talk next Thursday. Thank you, buddy.
All hail. All hail. Oh, hell.
That is Jarvo. That'll do it for us from Philly. I will talk to you a little bit tomorrow from this city before we head to Charlotte. The Tigers will be playing there on Sunday. In the meantime, Johnny Radio is right around the corner. This final broadcast part has been brought to you by Ken Garland. The third generation of Ken Garland Custom Home Builders is in. Not elect. He's in. It's William. He's there with Ken Jr., and they are still building palaces all around the Mid-South. Go look, KenGarland.com, and see what I'm talking about. You'll understand they have the knowledge, the wisdom of 3 generations to make sure that your house is built perfectly. That dream house you've been dreaming about, it can become a reality so easily with Ken and his son. They are great at little details, big picture, and here's his motto. A house, when you're building it, it's never really done. He's always with you. If anything comes up, the Garlands will be there to help you. If it's a remodel because you don't want to move, you love your location, I call it innovation and renovation. That's exactly what happens with Ken Garland. Again, go to the website and then talk to Ken. He's fun to talk to. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Johnny Radio's right around the corner. Have a great day, everybody.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about everything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys,